Growing up, when I was very small, my mom took my sister and I to church. She took us by herself. We grew up in a small church here in town, so no nursery, no children's church. So my mom took us. She did that by herself for several years. We had revival services, a couple of times a year as I was growing up, and we were, of course, always there. And I don't even remember who the preacher was that night. I just remember seeing them up there. I got to see my dad and my grandparents come to know Jesus at a revival meeting one night. I got to watch them go to the altar and accept Christ, and having my dad go to church with us then was such a blessing to my mom, and really took a burden off of her. And I remember my grandpa, and what a big change in his life. And he, from that time on, they were just involved in everything. They were at church, always working, always serving. So my grandpa and my grandma, my dad, all got saved, and eventually my aunts and my uncle were saved. I got saved at a camp meeting at Mount Zion. They had camp meeting in the fall, basically a big revival that they held in their big auditorium. And I remember standing in that service, knowing that the Holy Spirit was speaking to me directly. Tara, you need to do this. You need to confess that you're a sinner and you need to accept me. And I remember walking up to that altar and accepting Christ. I remember just feeling like that burden being lifted off of me, even as a kid. I was probably 10 years old when I got saved. But even at 10, I remember feeling that need, to have my sins forgiven. When James and I got married, he did not attend church. He was not raised in church. He had been some with his grandparents when he was younger, but church attendance was definitely not something that they did regularly as a family. And it wasn't anything that he was really interested in when we got married. So I went, by myself, and after we had Haley, I took her by myself for a while before he was saved. He wasn't against me going to church, but there was always that struggle of, well, this is going on, will you go do this? And it might have been during church time. I tried to always go despite all of that and be faithful in front of him. I was actually in the nursery with Haley when a friend of ours came to the door and said, "Hey, your husband's at the altar." And I said, "My husband?" So after he was saved, he was excited. We immediately had to go and tell his family. We didn't even go home. We went and told his family. And then after that, everything changed. I can't give up, on those people. There are definitely people that I would love to see sitting here with us every Sunday morning. But I know that God is making a way through us or through someone else if we are faithful. Living a life for Christ is, for me, the only way to live your life. I don't see how people get through the day without Christ to lean on. I don't, even through all the difficult times like I've talked about, without Christ and our hope of a future, of an eternity with Christ, I don't know how we would have gotten through those times. So I would just, if you feel that tugging from the Holy Spirit, if you feel that voice speaking to you that you need to make a change in your life, don't hesitate. Do it today. It'll be the best decision you've ever made.